What happens when you spend tens of millions on cars and planes instead of stock market investments? You get Michael Jordan's garage, $15 million in iron on wheels, and another 70 in the sky. That's more than the annual budget of several small American towns combined. It's worth more than 100 luxury apartments in downtown Chicago, or the salary of 2,000 average Americans for a year. But the most shocking thing isn't the total amount, it's one code on the side of his plane, N236MJ. Numbers and letters that cost more than a Ferrari, Bugatti, and Hennessy combined. What does this code hide? And why did it turn Jordan's car collection into a legend? Before we dive into the details of our investigation, please subscribe to the channel and like it. It really helps the channel grow. Act 1. When dreams still fit in a Mercedes. 1984, Chicago Airport. A young guy with a magnificent mustache and innocent look returns from the Olympics in Los Angeles with a gold medal and a Nike contract that would change not only his life, but the entire sports industry. In his garage, a Mercedes-Benz 380 SL convertible was already waiting. A classic German convertible with a V8 engine, red leather interior, and that special charm that distinguished German cars of the 80s. $50,000 at current prices seemed insane for an NBA rookie, but this Mercedes wasn't just transportation. It was a statement that Michael Jordan wasn't going to settle for mediocrity ever in anything. The convertible quickly proved its worth not only as a means of transportation, but as a psychological tool. When young Jordan appeared in the Chicago Stadium parking lot in this snow-white beauty, opponents understood. This guy plays different games. This was the first lesson in the long science of using external symbols for psychological pressure on opponents. The Mercedes became not just a car, but part of that image of invincibility that Jordan began building from his first days in professional basketball. But the real challenge lay ahead. In 1985, Chevrolet felt that this young basketball player could become something big. The company offered him something incredible, a brand new Chevrolet Corvette C4 ZR1 as a gift. This wasn't just corporate generosity, these were investments in a future legend. The ZR1, which journalists nicknamed King of the Hill, had an aluminum V8 engine, producing 375 horsepower and could accelerate to 60 in 4 seconds. At that time, these were fantastic numbers for an American car. This Corvette opened a new world of speed and adrenaline for Jordan. For the first time in his life, he felt what it meant to drive a real speed machine, and this feeling became a drug. Every ride in the ZR1 was like a mini version of what he did on the basketball court, pushing the limits of possibility, taking risks, defeating gravity, and common sense. It was then that Jordan understood a simple truth that would accompany him all his life. Real speed isn't in the numbers, but in the feeling of controlling the uncontrollable. But the most important purchase of this period was the Porsche 930 Turbo, better known as the Widowmaker. This car earned its sinister reputation honestly. A powerful turbocharged engine, rear-wheel drive layout, and behavior that demanded from the driver not just skills, but real courage. The 930 Turbo wasn't a car for everyone. It was a car for those ready to tame the beast. Jordan bought the white Porsche 930 Turbo Cabriolet Slantnose in 1989, and it was this car that became the real catalyst for his stylistic evolution. The aggressive body lines, flat front nose, and characteristic sound of the turbine inspired Nike designers to create one of the most famous sneaker models in history, Air Jordan VI. The color scheme, proportions, even sole details repeated elements of the Porsche design. So for the first time in Jordan's history, a car directly influenced shoe creation, and the shoes, in turn, brought millions in profits. This period, from 1984 to 1990, can be called formative not only for Jordan's career, but for his understanding of the symbolic power of cars. Each car from this stage carried a specific message. Mercedes spoke about status and classic taste. Corvette demonstrated American power and corporate support. Porsche declared readiness to risk and tame the untamable. Act 2. The Golden Decade and Dancing with Red Devils. The 1990s for Michael Jordan began with a revolution not only in basketball, but in understanding what a truly luxurious car should be. If the 80s were about making a statement about yourself, the 90s became about confirming your greatness. And there was plenty to confirm. 3 consecutive Bulls championships from 1991 to 1993, status as the most recognizable athlete on the planet, and contracts that turned him into a billionaire long before his career ended. It was during this period that Jordan discovered Italian temperament in the form of Ferrari. His first Italian was a 1992 Ferrari 512 TR, and this choice was symbolic in every sense. TR meant Testarossa, redhead, and red became the unofficial color of Jordan's legacy. The car cost about $220,000, which at that time was serious money even for an NBA star, but the 512 TR offered something more than money. This Ferrari had a 12-cylinder 5-litre engine that produced 428 horsepower and sounded like a choir of apocalypse angels. Top speed reached 195 miles per hour, but most important wasn't the speed, but how this car made you feel. When Jordan sat behind the wheel of the 512 TR, he became not just a driver, but a conductor of a 12-cylinder orchestra. Every press of the gas created a symphony that echoed through Chicago streets and reminded everyone who the real king was here. But Ferrari wasn't the only Italian passion of this period. In 1994, Jordan bought something completely unexpected, a Dodge Viper RT/10. At first glance, this seemed like a strange choice. After refined Italian supercars and German precision, an American muscle car looked like a step backward. But Jordan understood what critics didn't. The Viper was the most honest car in the world. The Viper didn't try to be refined or smart. It was just a huge amount of horsepower wrapped in an aggressive, ruthless body without compromises. An 8-litre V10 producing 400 horsepower, absence of any electronic assistance, minimum comfort, and maximum adrenaline. When Jordan drove the Viper, he returned to the origins of what made him a champion: pure, unadorned willpower. The psychological effect of the Viper was special. When Jordan appeared in this red monster before a game, opponents understood. Today he came not just to play, but to destroy. The Viper became the automotive equivalent of Jordan's famous look before a decisive shot. It was a threat wrapped in a metal shell. But the most important purchase of the 90s was the 1996 Ferrari 550 Maranello. This car appeared in Jordan's garage, right at the peak of his second Bulls championship dynasty, and the symbolism here was impossible to ignore. The 550 Maranello was the first front-engine Ferrari in 12 years, a return to classic Grand Touring proportions but with modern technologies. The 12-cylinder 5.5-litre engine produced 485 horsepower and allowed acceleration to 60 in 4.4 seconds. Top speed reached 199 miles per hour, but the main thing wasn't speed, but character. The 550 Maranello combined the best of both worlds: Italian passion and German reliability, classic beauty and modern performance. Jordan drove this Ferrari in a special way. If he drove the Viper like a warrior before battle, behind the wheel of the 550 Maranello, he transformed into an aristocrat of speed. This was a car for long coastal drives, for evening rides after successful games, for moments when you needed to feel not the adrenaline of victory, but the calm confidence in your own perfection. Parallel to his Italian romance, Jordan maintained relationships with American muscle. His Chevrolet Corvette C5 convertible became his favorite car for daily use. Comfortable, fast, reliable, and exclusive enough to emphasize status, but not so flashy as to attract unnecessary attention. The C5 was the perfect car for those days when Jordan wanted to simply enjoy driving without making statements or demonstrating power. An interesting detail of this period was that Jordan began using cars as a team management tool. Before particularly important games, he could appear in different cars depending on what psychological message he wanted to convey. Ferrari meant, "Today we're playing art." Viper screamed, "Today we're going to war." Corvette said, "This is regular work that needs to be done professionally." The Bulls team quickly learned to read these automotive codes. If Jordan arrived in a Ferrari, it meant he was tuned for beautiful, spectacular play with elements of pure art. If the Viper appeared, the team knew today there would be carnage, and everyone had to be ready to go to the end. Corvette meant regular professional work that needed to be done efficiently and without unnecessary drama. The 90s ended for Jordan not only with a third consecutive Bulls championship, but with final realization that cars had become an integral part of his public image. He no longer just bought cars he liked. He was building a car collection that told the story of his evolution from talented rookie to undisputed king of basketball. Act 3. Life after the crown and British chic. The end of his career in 2003 became for Jordan not an end, but the beginning of a completely different story. If previously cars served as tools of psychological influence on opponents, now they had to reflect a new status: successful businessman transforming sports capital into a financial empire. And it was during this period that cars appeared in Jordan's garage that symbolized not the aggression of a champion, but the refinement of a true aristocrat. The first swallow of the new era was an Aston Martin DB7 Volante, purchased in 2004. This choice seemed unexpected after years of Italian passion and American power. The British Grand Tourer, with a 12-cylinder V12 engine producing 420 horsepower, offered something fundamentally different: not aggression, but elegance. Not a statement, but a hint. Not a threat, but an invitation to conversation about taste. The DB7 Volante was a car for a different Jordan. That Jordan who no longer had to prove anything to anyone on the basketball court, but had to win respect in completely different spheres: business, investments, brand building. The Aston Martin spoke a language understood in corporate boardrooms and on golf courses. This was the language not of challenge, but of self-confidence. The psychology of using the DB7 was fundamentally different from Jordan's previous cars. If he drove Ferrari and Viper like weapons, the Aston Martin became a tool of diplomacy. At business meetings, charity events, presentations of new investment projects, he appeared in this very car. The message was clear. Michael Jordan is no longer just an athlete, he's a business gentleman. But the most important purchase of this period was the 2007 Ferrari 599 GTB Fiorano. If the DB7 symbolized Jordan's new elegance, the 599 GTB proved that passion for speed and Italian temperament hadn't gone anywhere. This was an evolutionary development of the 550 Maranello line, but already at a fundamentally new technological level. The 12-cylinder 6-litre engine produced a fantastic 612 horsepower. Top speed reached 205 miles per hour. But the main thing wasn't this. The 599 GTB became the first Ferrari in Jordan's collection that offered a real combination of classic Italian character with modern electronic systems. This was a car that allowed enjoying speed without risk to life, passion without suicide. An interesting detail was that Jordan ordered the 599 GTB in a specific configuration. Black metallic body, combined with red leather interior and carbon details. This color combination became Jordan's signature in the automotive world. Black with red accents repeated the color scheme of his favorite Bulls uniform and Air Jordan sneakers. Simultaneously, Jordan maintained a pragmatic approach to everyday transportation. The 2006 Chevrolet Corvette C606 became his workhorse. Power of 505 horsepower, acceleration to 60 in 3.7 seconds, and a price of about $65,000 made the 06 the perfect tool for cases when speed was needed without prestigious obligations. Jordan used this Corvette in a special way. Unlike Ferrari or Aston Martin, in the 06 he could allow himself real freedom. Without fear of scratching exclusive paint or damaging a rare interior, he could drive as he wanted, fast, aggressively, sometimes even carelessly. The 06 became the automotive equivalent of training sneakers, functional, reliable, and allowing full potential realization. A special purchase of this period was the 2009 Cadillac XLR-V. This choice seems strange in the context of a collection consisting mainly of European supercars. But the XLR-V had special significance for Jordan as a patriot of the American automotive industry. A supercharged V8 producing 443 horsepower, magnesium body frame, and retro-futuristic design made this Cadillac a true American answer to European Grand Tourers. Jordan bought the XLR-V not so much as a car, but as a statement of support for American automakers during one of the most difficult periods in their history. 2009 was a year of crisis for Detroit, GM bankruptcy, and mass layoffs. Appearing in public behind the wheel of the XLR-V, Jordan demonstrated not just patriotism, but faith in the ability of American industry to revive and create world-class product. This period, from 2003 to 2010, can be characterized as a time of consolidation. Jordan no longer experimented with different types of cars, but formed a balanced collection that reflected all aspects of his new identity. British elegance of Aston Martin for business affairs, Italian passion of Ferrari for personal pleasure, American power of Corvette for daily use, and American luxury of Cadillac for demonstrating support of domestic industry. Act 4. The billionaire era and hypercars of the future. The 2010s brought two revolutionary changes to Michael Jordan's life. First, he officially became a billionaire, achieving this status for the first time in history among athletes. Second, the automotive industry entered the era of hypercars, machines that combined fantastic power with space technologies. And Jordan couldn't stay away from this revolution. The first real shock was the purchase of a Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren 722 edition in 2007. This car cost $500,000 and was the result of collaboration between two legendary brands, Mercedes and McLaren. A supercharged V8 producing 650 horsepower, carbon monocoque, gull wing doors, and a top speed of 209 miles per hour made the 722 edition a real car from the future. But the most interesting detail was the license plates. Jordan ordered personalized plates, AIR, which became a perfect match for a car that carried in its name the number 722, a reference to Mercedes' victory at Mille Miglia in 1955 at 722 in the morning. The symbolism was perfect. legendary pilot behind the wheel of a legendary machine, with plates referring to his most famous nickname. However, the SLR McLaren didn't stay long in the collection. A few years later, the car was sold on eBay with less than 1,000 miles. This fact caused much speculation in the press, but actually the reason was simple. Jordan realized that the SLR was too compromising. This was a car that tried to combine comfort grand touring with supercar performance, and as a result, wasn't ideal in either aspect. The real revolution was the purchase of a Bugatti Veyron Sang Noir in 2010. This car cost $2.2 million and represented the technological apex of early 21st century automotive engineering. A quad-turbo W16 engine producing 1,001 horsepower, top speed over 249 miles per hour, and acceleration that made everything previously made impossible. But the Veyron was important not only because of its technical characteristics. This was the first car in Jordan's collection that cost more than the annual salary of most professional athletes. The Bugatti purchase became a statement that Jordan was now playing in a completely different league. Not in the league of rich athletes, not in the league of successful businessmen, but in the league of real billionaires, for whom a $2 million car isn't an investment or luxury, but just a toy. The psychological effect of owning the Veyron was incredible. When Jordan appeared in this black monster, the reaction was instant and universal. Even other billionaires understood, this is a person from another planet. The Veyron became not just a car, but a mobile symbol of absolute financial freedom. But the most important purchase of the last decade wasn't a car, but a plane. In 2016, Jordan bought a Gulfstream G550 with registration number N236MJ for $61.5 million. This number became one of the most brilliant branding decisions in history. N23 referred to his jersey number, 6 symbolized the number of NBA championships, and MJ were his initials. The G550 wasn't just transportation, but a flying office and home at the same time. A range of 7,750 nautical miles allowed flying to any point in the world without refueling. Maximum altitude of 51,000 feet guaranteed comfort even over the Himalayas. But the main thing wasn't technical perfection, but symbolic power. The private jet became final confirmation that Michael Jordan had crossed the line between very rich and truly free people. Owning a G550 meant the ability to fly to any point on the planet at any moment, not depending on airline schedules, not standing in lines, not explaining plans to anyone. This was ultimate freedom that money can buy. An interesting detail was the cabin design. Jordan ordered a special cigar smoking area with a special ventilation system. Cigars had long become an integral part of his public image, and the plane had to maintain this tradition even at 33,000 feet above ground. In 2024, Jordan updated his fleet, buying a newer Gulfstream G650ER for $70 million. This plane had even greater range, higher speed, and greater comfort level. But most important was that he kept the same registration number N236MJ, which turned it into a real trademark. The latest acquisition was the purchase in 2023 of a Hennessy Venom 5 Roadster for $3.5 million. This car was called the fastest convertible in the world and represented the apex of American automotive engineering. A twin-turbo V8 producing 1,817 horsepower and theoretical top speed over 298 miles per hour made the Venom 5 a real ground rocket. But most interesting wasn't the car itself, but the fact that Jordan continued buying cars that expanded the boundaries of possibility. At over 60 years old, he remained the same maximalist as at 20. The Venom 5 proved that for a real champion, age isn't a reason to stop, but only motivation to move even faster. Act 5. Decoding N236MJ and collection philosophy. When Michael Jordan updated his plane in 2024, keeping the registration number N236MJ, he didn't just show sentimentality. He created one of the most brilliant branding codes in history. Each digit and letter of this number tells a separate story about the journey from young athlete to global icon. N23 isn't just a jersey number. It's a symbol of perfection that Jordan wore with the Bulls, and under which he returned after his first retirement. The number 6 symbolizes 6 NBA championships. But this isn't just statistics. This is a story about 2 3-year dynasties separated by a year and a half of absence. This is a story about how a real champion returns after defeat even stronger. The letters MJ complete the code like an artist's signature on a masterpiece. Michael Jeffrey Jordan. 2 letters behind, which stands an entire era in sports, business, popular culture. Analyzing the evolution of Jordan's car fleet over 40 years, several clear principles that guided his choices can be identified. First, Each car had to be a leader in its class. Jordan never bought second or third most significant models. The Mercedes 380 SL was the flagship convertible of its time. The Corvette ZR1 was the fastest American car. The Porsche 930 Turbo was the most dangerous supercar of the 80s. The Ferrari 512 TR was the most famous Italian sports car of the 90s. The Bugatti Veyron was the fastest car in the world. Second, each purchase had symbolic meaning that went beyond simple ownership of a luxury car. Mercedes symbolized the transition from amateur to professional sports. Porsche 930 inspired sneaker design that brought billions in profits. Ferraris demonstrated Italian passion that became part of Jordan's public image. Aston Martin declared the transformation of athlete into businessman. Bugatti confirmed billionaire status. Third, Jordan was always ready to experiment with new technologies and concepts. He was one of the first owners of the Corvette ZR1 with aluminum engine. He bought the Ferrari 599 GTB with revolutionary electronic systems. He purchased the Mercedes SLR McLaren with carbon monocoque. He became owner of the Bugatti Veyron with quad-turbo engine. This principle reflected his approach to basketball, always looking for new ways to become better. Fourth, all Jordan's cars had exceptional build quality and equipment. He never bought base versions, always chose top configurations with maximum options. His Ferraris always had the most powerful engines, highest quality leather interiors, unique color schemes. This perfectionism reflected his sports philosophy. If you do something, do it better than everyone. Fifth, Jordan always viewed cars as investments, not expenses. Most of his cars grew in price over time, especially rare and exclusive models. The Porsche 930 Turbo Slant Nose, which he bought for $80,000 in 1989, now costs over $250,000. The Ferrari 512 TR tripled in price. The Bugatti Veyron remains one of the most expensive cars on the secondary market. Today, in 2024, Michael Jordan's car collection is valued by experts at over $15 million, not including the plane. An interesting detail is that Jordan continues to personally drive most of his cars. At over 60 years old, he regularly drives his Hennessy Venom 5, which develops over 248 miles per hour. Experts claim that in 20 years, Jordan's collection will become one of the most valuable private car collections in the world. Some of his cars, especially those with documented Jordan ownership, already cost several times more than similar cars without such history. Jordan's Ferrari 512 TR sells at auctions for nearly twice the market value of a regular 512 TR. If you like such videos, please subscribe and like. It significantly helps the channel's work.